Welcome everybody here online and uh, readers of the Waxahachie Sun and Southlake Style Magazine. I'm Andrew Branca, film critic with the Sun. I'm here with my colleague David Dunn with Southlake Style Magazine. How are you doing today, David?
I'm doing all right, man. Living, breathing, watching movies as usual.
Same here. I'm excited today. You know why?
Why?
It's the first new movie that has been out in a long time, and I've been anxious to see this one. It's Pete Davidson's new movie, The King of Staten Island. So something I've been really looking forward to for a while. So tell us a little bit about this flick here and what audiences can expect.
Yeah, man. So, The King of Staten Island. I was really excited to watch this, as well as yourself, Andy. The story is a semi-autobiographical movie about Pete Davidson's life, actually. Pete plays a tattoo artist in the movie named Scott, who lost his father while he was fighting a fire in New York. You know, in real life, Pete Davidson's own father was a firefighter as well. He was one of the first responders at 9/11 and was among the casualties in 9/11. Profoundly affected Pete Davidson in his youth. And similarly with King of Staten Island, it also affects his character, Scott. So very personal film, very touching film, and especially relevant to Pete Davidson. It comes from a very earnest, yet a very serious and very sorrowful place to him.
You know, I thought it was a good film, but I was a little disappointed about it.
Yeah, what disappointed you most about it?
I just thought there could be more. It just, to me, I was expecting something a little bit more to be kind of a breakout role with him with this movie, and to me, it just left the impression when I saw 8 Mile with Eminem. No, hear me out here. The reason why I'm comparing it to 8 Mile, I mean, two different movies, two different kind of stories, but there's a very similar link between them. When you look at Eminem, when I remember when that came out, I was in high school. I was a junior in high school, and everybody was talking, man, 8 Mile, this is a great movie, man. Eminem's going to win the Oscar, and he's such this amazing guy, and it's so cool. You can go see it. And I went and saw it, with my parents knowing. Our movies we didn't go see, but I went anyways. And honestly, I didn't. I was like, well, it's good, but I mean, it's just Eminem playing himself, and there wasn't really any acting involved. It was just him being him. And when I saw Davidson on screen, I didn't see him extending himself out to be more, to get out of his comfort zone. I didn't see a whole lot of that. I do applaud him for using his own life experience in losing his dad. That takes a lot of guts to put that out there and put that on screen, and that's tremendous. But I don't know. I mean, I saw a lot more. I guess I read more into the trailer than what I thought. But it was a good movie, but it wasn't great for me.
Boy, are we in different universes about this one, Andy. I agree the movie is good. I enjoy the movie. I do think there are flaws with it for sure. I do not think they're at all with Pete Davidson's performance. I do agree with the critique that Pete Davidson plays himself more or less, kind of similarly to how Eminem plays himself in 8 Mile. But I don't feel like that's a weakness. I feel like that's a strength in both cases. With most actors, they're often playing different characters or, going out of their comfort zones with different roles. Like Joaquin Phoenix, obviously won the Oscar last year for playing Joker. Adam Driver was a husband going through a divorce. Adam Sandler was this a Jewish, jewel peddler in Uncut Gems. So there's actors definitely playing people other than themselves, and they're good at those roles. But when you have unversed actors like Pete Davidson or like Eminem that don't really have a big, acting career behind them, you kind of give them an exposure, a chance to, kind of break out their launches through their debut projects, right? I think this is a great start for Pete Davidson. As you mentioned, he definitely is playing a variation of himself and is coming through more personal moments. And I think that's really led to many genuine scenes for him in this movie. There's quite a few moments where he's arguing with his mom about how she's dating another firefighter after his dad died, or when he's fighting somebody over the fact that his dad died. They don't feel like scenes where an actor is reciting the lines. They feel like moments of catharsis for Pete Davidson. And that's why I think he does a good job in this movie, is because of his personal experiences wrapping into it. Sometimes the best performances in film isn't emulation, it's reenactment. It's revisiting the pain you've experienced in your past. It's revisiting your personal experiences and putting them on the screen. I think that's why this performance works particularly well for Pete Davidson himself.
I definitely can see your point in that, and I respect that. I'm not saying it was a bad movie by any means. I thought it was good. I just think it's, for me, seeing it one time is enough for me. I want to watch it again, but I thought it was a good movie. I just didn't think it was great. I think there was a lot left on the table. The one guy I really did like a lot, and I don't know if you'll agree with this, but I love Bill Burr's performance in this. I'm a big fan of his stand-up comedy, and he basically was the guy he portrays himself on stage. Well, I mean, I've met a lot of firemen like him, because I cover a lot of fire and EMS stuff for the paper, and there's a lot of blue-collar guys like him on the job, and I was happy with his performance. It was really good, and there were moments at times that I thought it was really funny. I mean, the time he flips Davison over into the pool and he says, "Man, I could drown." He's like, "Dude, you're 9 foot tall. Get over it." I was like, "Oh, that's great." So,
be honest, you only like him because you have the same mustache as him, right?
Hey, don't knock the stash here.
I'm not. I can respect it. No, I
don't call you out for your beard, and say like you have a blue ox and go chop down trees and drink maple syrup, but
Hey, I wouldn't be offended by that. I do agree with Bill Burr's performance. Bill Burr was actually my second favorite performance in the movie. I definitely agree with that. He is more known for his career as a comedian than as an actor, kind of similar to Pete Davidson.
Well, but anytime he's on screen, there's never been apart from F is for Family on Netflix, which is a cartoon show. He's never really had a leading role. He's always been a side character. I mean, he showed that in Breaking Bad, for example. I mean, he was one of the thugs hired by Saul Goodman to, handle things. I mean, but he's always worked well in that niche, and that's where he's kind of built his career at, which is fantastic.
For sure. And yeah, he also had a guest role in the Lucasfilm TV series, The Mandalorian, and he was great in there too. But I do agree, he was fantastic in this movie. I mean, he really kind of contrasted Pete Davidson's character really nicely. I mean, whereas Pete Davidson was kind of uncomfortable, neurotic, and just kind of very closed in, Bill Burr's character kind of wore his heart in his sleeve just kind of this really earnest, outspoken guy. He does remind me a lot of the blue collar guys, just shooting the hoop and grabbing a beer with somebody. He feels like a guy you could just talk to for like hours on end. He's just that friendly. I think but what I really liked about Bill Burr's performance in this movie, he was funny for sure, but he was also really good in the dramatic moments as well.
Yeah.
There was a really great moment in this movie where Pete Davidson, his character, went to behind Ray's back to talk to someone that Ray didn't like, to get a negative picture of the guy, to like paint him as like a bad guy to his mom,
his ex-wife.
Yeah. But later on in the movie, Ray kind of confronts Pete Davidson over that, saying, you went to the worst person, the person that hates me the most. What pictures do you think you were going to get about that? Did you think about talking to any of the firefighters I work with? I'm like, that is an amazing point. So yeah, Pete Davidson juggles funny with dramatic very well. Bill Burr juggles dramatic with funny very well. They're really good in this movie together.
And I will say the scenes between Davidson and Burr, they were great. I wish there was more of that with them, and that's the parts I really enjoyed with that movie. That interaction between a skilled veteran actor like Bill Burr and stand-up comedian who knows how to work with an audience, who knows how to deliver lines really well, and a newbie, so to speak, like Davidson, who's just getting into acting or into comedy. I mean, he's been with Saturday Night Live for a few years, but the scenes with them were gold, and I wish they would have had more than that, and that's what I was really looking forward to, is that type of consistency, I guess.
Yeah, and I could agree with that. I think I think the common complaint I have with the movie, first of all, you're absolutely right on their chemistry. I feel like their chemistry is one of the stronger aspects of this movie, besides the personal aspects as well. I feel like this movie is very much catharsis for Pete Davidson. It's him kind of coming to terms with what he's dealt with throughout his life and putting it on the screen for us to both laugh and empathize with. And I think that's a very phenomenal gesture. It's very rare that artists and actors are as open as Pete Davidson is in this movie. I do feel like the main issue with this movie isn't really those actors. It is the length. It is the runtime. The movie is 2 hours and 17 minutes long, and you feel like there's so many moments that they could have shaved off in the first two acts to make it more cleaner and really, get to the heart of the movie, which is, Pete Davidson coming to terms with the firefighter culture, coming closer to his dad, and kind of accepting someone new into his life. Yeah, I feel like the third act is really where the movie shone the most, and the first two acts really kind of dragged getting there. I feel like you could have shaved.
I would agree with you on that for sure, but I guess the other character I enjoyed, he had a small role in it, but I thought it was very important, was the role of Papa, played by Steve Buscemi, who was the old man at the firehouse. He's like the battalion chief, he or the captain, or the guy that leads the company of men, And I thought his performance was really good. It provided, I think, just another layer to the story. What's interesting about Buscemi is he was actually a New York firefighter back in the day. He worked from 1980 to 84 with Engine 55 in Manhattan. And
Wow.
what's cool about him is that, and then he got into acting, so naturally he left the fire department. But what's cool about him is when 9/11 happened, he rejoined his engine company and spent days down at the World Trade Center site digging for rubble, working 12-hour shifts with the guys down there.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's really cool. And
in 2014, they named him an honorary battalion chief for FDNY, which I thought that was cool.
That's so awesome. Yeah, I didn't know that. And that's one of the really special aspects about this movie, Andy, is that it's filled with so many of those personal details. I don't know how big of a hip hop fan you are, but at the end of the movie, Kid Cudi's Pursuit of Happiness plays over the end credits. And how that's relevant is that Pete Davidson, throughout his childhood, whenever he was dealing with the trauma of losing his father and dealing with depression and suicidal thoughts, Kid Cudi was the artist that really kind of saved him. So it's those small but powerful details that really makes you feel like the movie comes from a true place, and I really appreciate that about it.
Yeah, I did read that about him, about his connection with the music, and I did catch that at the end. I thought that was cool.
It was so sweet. But yeah, going back to the first two acts, I do definitely feel like there are parts that could have been shaved off. There's one character introduced early on in the movie. Their arc literally goes nowhere. They're thrown in there just because, and then they leave as quickly as they enter. And then there's a subplot introduced in Act 2 that, again, goes nowhere. It's kind of in there because either the film needed some excitement or it actually did happen to Pete Davidson and he just wanted it in there just because. But it doesn't really fit with the rest of the story. It's just kind of in there just because.
Yeah, I'll agree. It definitely lagged in the beginning, and I think if maybe they would have trimmed it up a little bit more, tightened it up, I think I probably would have liked it just maybe a little bit better. I'll definitely agree with you on that. I mean, but what do you give this on a 1 to 10 here?
Solid 8. Solid 8. The first two acts for the longest time, like you said, it was slow. It was dragging a little bit. Originally would have given it a 7, but the third act is just meaningful enough, just emotional enough, just personable enough that it bumped it up a little bit for me.
I give it a 7.
Yeah.
Like I said, I thought it was a good movie. I just didn't think it was great. But for any people that want to watch this, it's available practically any streaming service for about $20. So invite some friends over, order some pizza. It makes for a good night.
Yeah, you can stream it now live on YouTube, Google Play, or Amazon Prime. And
Fandango now, I believe, also. So, well, that's going to wrap it up for this week's of the Critics Corner. If you have any questions, suggestions, comments about movies or want to talk movies, shoot us an email, and we'll be glad to take anything under advisement here. So if you want to send me an email, I can be reached here at the Sun at Andrew@Waxahachiesun.com.
And I can be reached at David@SouthlakeStyle.com.
Okay, well, that will wrap up this week's edition for the Corner, and we will see you guys next week.
See y'all next week. Have a good one.